We're back. We're going to try this one more time. This is Val part 3. We're getting ahead of steam, and then we have technical issues, but this is the learning process. So we were talking about family, self-officiating, and ultimate frisbee, and I'll turn it back over to Val. He was getting we had a big head of steam before we went dark. So why don't you take up? We were talking about self-officiating and family.
Yeah, I think it was.
Hold on. We're going to go here. Good, okay. Self-officiating and family before we went dark, and I think you can hear us better now that we have our big ass microphone you see off camera. So please continue.
I think we were talking about spirit of the game be more like a education work in a family, more like how law work in society, where you have like police and judge, and in the family, education go with this trial errors and solving problems, solving issue. That's why also it's very difficult to define spirit of the game. It's like how you define education, how you define love. It's not easy to put like that in a sentence, right? It's more complicated than that. So when some problem arises in your family, you're going to talk about, right? You need to fix it, and eventually you're going to bring more people around you, like other family member, maybe the teachers, I don't know, and try to solve the problem, right? That's what make family a very hard process, but also what make really an education for your kids, right? You cannot police issue that arise in your family with calling,
At some point you realize you can't. As an adult to a kid, at some point you can't officiate everything and be there.
So that's kind of my point, that self-officiating stuff is difficult. Mine don't work a lot of time, but those are occasion to bring back the conversation and self-reflect and make adjustment and go back on the line, and it's going to be always a big argument about that, but I think it's the strength of our sport.
That's funny, you talk about self-officiating and spirit of the game. It's always a big argument. So what do you mean there's always going to be a big argument? Some of the philosophy of spirit of the game?
Well, these conversations are going to repeat over and over. Like in education, we are repeating, belief and
Sure.
and component of education and adjustment and change all the time, right? But that doesn't mean that you say, well, let's get rid of the process of education, right? Let's put, private security in our school to do everything, right? It's not the way we want to see our school, and I don't think it's what I want to see for Ultimate in the future.
Right, very nice.
I mean, my point is we should mic the players, You mic the players, you make them even more responsible on the field, and then bring even to the audience a different, perspective, a different taste. And it's professional sport is not about create an audience and make the player like the center of the experience, like know them better.
Right.
Well, how you do that better than put the mic when they play and listen what they say, and every time they screw up, it's be like a big discussion, and is not what media want. Talk about and go over things and engage your customer or your fan base.
Right, give them an inside look at the problem. They might be very interesting. It might be very boring, because if spirit of the game comes in and it's very calm and there's no drama, which is kind of the antithesis of what you're miking people. You think you're going to see drama. It's like,
well, those days you can just enjoy the action,
right.
But the boring part, I don't believe in the argument. The boring
right.
of Ultimate, or the breaks of that make the fan base like a bad experience. I don't buy the argument, because it's proved over and over that what really make people engage is not the pace of something, like, and you have baseball here or football, like there is the longest break ever, sometimes the boring action ever, and people is engaged, right?
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
I think you with promotion and with actually that is a big part. Money, with money you can make everything exciting, like a bottle of water can be exciting and you can buy it, like
nice.
So I think it's more about how you to use your resources,
yes,
and you engage your audience more than how many breaks there are, what was the pace of the action, and so on. I don't know, what do you think?
I like it. I like the thought. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is I agree with you about the money. You can make anything look exciting, absolutely. One of the things, to go back to coaching and spirit of the game, is that if you can take the wins and losses out of it and the hero sort of aspect out of it, I think you're going to grow a lot. You're going to get a lot more kids in there, because a lot of the big sports celebrate the hero moments. And I think what takes a back seat is when it's very easy to make anybody feel a dog. You drop a play, you drop a disc, you get beat on a play, things that really can humble you as a player, and you can find that you become, what I would quote, very radioactive, and that you find that you find people that at their lowest point in a particular game, they're off and sort of slightly ostracized. And I really like when a team, that's when a coach is a coach, that's when a team is a team, is when it's very easy to be a great team when everybody's making great plays, you're anointed and a hero. But when you have those really genuine, real moments is when someone misses a play, misses a disc, drops a moment, it really needs to be picked up and really let them know that they're part of a family. And to go back to Val's point, is that I think a family comes together when one of its members is in a low point, and you come and circle around them and lift them up. And that's one of the aspects as a coach. One of the aspects that I like to instill in my players is that it's great to come up and be a part of the hero moment. But one of the things that I like to see, and one of the aspects I like to champion with the cause, is that you come up and say, hey, you're part of the family, and spirit of the game is embracing no matter where you are in the game, whether you're a role player, whether you're a leader, whether you're a follower, whether you're new to the game, that you're part of it, and we embrace you wherever you are. And those are one of the things that I love to see as part of the spirit of the game, that it's like, hey, you're part of the family, we're glad you're here, and we're gonna walk with you if you're a walker, and we're gonna run with you if you're a runner, and this is part of the experience. So and it goes back to really growing out the family aspect of it. And of course, I like you more if you're a family man or if you won the lottery. I love you, you're my favorite sibling. But even if you don't win the lottery, I'm there for you in your lower moments as well. But
go back to the general idea of spectator versus player. It's obvious that this sport is really enjoyable for the player, right? So that's is the foundation of even US Ultimate. It was the UPA, was the Ultimate Player Association. Really, it's fun to play, but if we want to grow a fan base, I guess it's a matter of time, it's a matter of strategy, it's a matter of resources, more that if it's playing with this set of rule or with these changes, because again, you can make love everything if you have resources, right? People can love any kind of TV, any kind of show, any kind of thing if you put resources on it.
So let me play devil's advocate. I'm in marketing, I'm in advertising, I do creative design, and so I would say that if you want to get a lot of eyeballs, it may not grow the base long term and it may not be sustainable, but if you create champions, a Cirque du Soleil experience, and there's a lot of drama, and you pit villains and heroes or underlings, and you build an understory, that you're going to get a lot of eyeballs. If there's more dramatic football concussion-like plays that happen, and it's encouraged to be at a level that creates this built-in drama, I think you're going to get a lot of people from other sports that feed in this drama. Now, I'm playing devil's advocate. I think you're going to get a lot of people who are, have interesting feelings about the sport, but are more wedded to the baseball, football, basketball aspects of the sport. You're going to get those eyeballs in there. And if you get a ref, they're going to see aspects of the game that are very familiar to the sports they like. That said, that is not that on the other side of the coin, that's not very unique. The uniqueness of the sport is self-officiating. It's non-contact. There's a lot of beauty, that's organic beauty, that comes with the sport that's completely opposite of what the natural sport. So I'm torn, being a promoter, that how are you going to bring in more eyeballs? Do you simply build the base out wide, and that's where the viewership's going to come from as it goes up? Or how do you bring in the people who are like football but are looking for something different in the off season, or go, hey, look, I really want to entertain and embrace this sport. There's a lot of things that I like. I don't know, but I think we got to build in some of that
other sport
drama.
did that, right? Other sport did that, and they found out themselves without the base. They grow the viewership, they use the customer fan base, but then they didn't have the base, to the young base, and now they go back to that level. So I think we saw the error make over and over in the past, and I don't think that will be the smart strategy for us as a new sport. We have a lot of because there is this contrast about we want to grow the sport, with more professional ultimate. But if we give away what make us
You sell your soul.
special,
Right.
and not only special, I mean, if we want to grow at youth level, it's clear for many reasons, including economic reason. Don't have refs is an economic value. Yeah, it's cheaper.
Great point. Sure.
It's less expensive, less operational, become easier. But definitely, the self-officiating spirit of the game is a big sell for parents and family and players. So that friction, I think we're going to see in the future years, where they want to go more pro and a larger base that way, but it is the risk that you give up the educational aspect of the sport that also is powerful for lifting interest and engagement from the community, the parents, the family, and the school. So
Nicely put.
where we're going to put the resources there, right?
Sure.
And also because there is a key aspect that is the role model, right? So if the top of the best player, the best athletes are pro athletes, kids are going to see that as real, right? Real ultimate. And so this argument where the top athletes, they need reps. The top human beings able to play the best ultimate possible, they are not able to manage themselves. They need reps. But you ask your kids, you do this differently, you manage your emotion. It's a tricky argument that it's difficult to sell.
That's a brilliant argument.
You need to be honest, but the top politicians are not.
Right.
That's
great.
That's not a good model that you offer to them.
That is an awesome. By the way, I love this conversation. I do want to say where we're broadcasting from. It's the Revolution Cafe. They've got a Super Bowl party this Sunday. They've got free Wi-Fi.
Speaking about big bays and fans.
This is great segue. And they've got chicken and waffles, chicken and fries, and they've got a community meeting on Wednesdays, open mic on Thursdays, and they've got jazz here, live jazz at 8 p.m. And this is on 7th Street in Oakland, across the street from the downtown main post office and Revolution Cafe, and I want to thank them for their hospitality. So let's take this back to
let's talk about concussion.
Well, yeah, absolutely. We can talk about
No,
football.
I'm joking, but
well, no. I mean,
but it's another point, like the safety of our sport.
absolutely.
It's important.
I'm seeing more and more women wear concussion outfits, and lots of them. And that makes me, I mean, looking at mixed ultimate, I love mixed ultimate, but it also lets you know that there are women who are laying out aggressively, and they're beautiful athletes, and they're putting themselves in harm's way. There are men who are trucking women, and that's a whole nother discussion of we can talk about rules and putting the spirit of the game and putting people in danger. But I think one of the things that's very interesting are concussions, and a lot of parents are steering their kids away from football, and just for that very reason, which makes ultimate a very compelling
to
reason.
Soccer. I mean, that's
Soccer
how
too.
you can compete at a high level if they don't touch the ball with their heads.
Right.
Until 16 years old.
Very good. And
really, you won't compete at a high level and you don't touch the ball with the head.
No, my son plays soccer, and that's a very interesting thing. And it's like the head is a major component of the game and steering the ball, and so that's very interesting. Can a ball create a concussion-like situation? And I didn't think about that, but yeah. So which makes ultimate that much more compelling in the conversation of where do people go to create this level of excitement and team dynamics and learning environment. So talk about concussions.
So that's interesting because I really see a problem for football in the future.
Yeah, well,
it's already happening, but
very much
the more study and the more we go into the detail, and I think there will be, with all the effort, all the resources the professional football is going to put out there, will be very, very difficult to enlarge your youth base on that sport.
Sure.
Or you're going to modify so much the sport that it's going to be very difficult to
the product on the
those
field.
levels.
Exactly. Sure.
So and then for us can have big repercussion, because that means thousands of kids may be looking for other alternative, and not just for us as a ultimate sport, but for other mainstream sport can be big.
Right.
And we need to be careful also, because with layout and eventually with jumping in sky for this some concussion can happen too, but like any sport.
Right.
So, but beside that, we are very safe. The contact is very limited, and there is also an awareness about don't make dangerous plays. So it's very clear we are going in a different direction, and safety for family or parents it's number one. And so I think that aspect it's another selling point for us.
That's an interesting point. There was a discussion, South Bay Pickup. I'm on an email list, and there was a discussion that talked about dangerous plays and when a foul is called. And in a number of situations I've been in, there's been discussion about, it's been a mixed pickup game I've been in, where you have a very aggressive male trying to relive his fantasies out there in the world, and he's laying out at all costs, putting people in danger. And it's not technically a foul, but this
it actually is. If it's a
depends on,
place,
right? Well, it depends on. There's two rules of thought, where there's two governing bodies. One governing body is WIFTIS, that says that if you put people in danger, period, if someone has to stop play in order to avoid being hit, anything is if you stop play, if someone has to stop the normal course of a play because the person does something in a dangerous way, that in of itself is a spirit of a foul.
Yeah, and I think that is interesting because US Ultimate is, and World Flying Disc Federation (FDF) is going to more and more is working together to get in terms of rules the same approach in terms of observer or
Right.
self-officiation. There is a work there to combine
Right.
and get close together, and I think that is very important because sending different message of different rule is not convenient.
It's not convenient, but it takes some of the excitement out of the way because you want people to do sick layouts but it takes the spirit of the drama away. But it maintains the spirit of the safety.
I think that it's possible to play a more physical ultimate. I think that there is a discussion there, and there is always going like pull and push, but the most important thing is understanding. This go back to the whole kind of educational aspect of our sport, that understanding when against who you can be more physical, and it's at a pickup level, or can be like the top elite level. And you need to understand if you are in a situation against a team that play kind of semi physicality, and you are against a player that it's okay to play with that physicality. And I think that's part of our job as a player and as a attitude the team have toward
physicality. Define that, because I've played at games where I'm bumped throughout. I mean, from the moment that the first point is played, you're being bumped by the defender throughout, and you can call fouls or you can just roll with it and go back and forth, and it's a very physical game. Or people are jumping your line from making a cut, which is very unique because you don't see that in pickup for the most part. So when you talk about physicality, because it's not an ultimate's purely not a contact sport, but you're finding at the higher level it is.
Yeah, and again, beside following the rules, there is always like a fine line between
incidental
and so. But again, it's very important to understand against the person or the team you play against, and you can talk about that stuff, and I think it's good for the captains or for the coaches talk in advance about that. A certain level, already your opponent, so
right.
you have that knowledge, so maybe you don't need to go like in detail at that, but in general it's always a good idea to talk about something specific, like how you approach or understand some limit or some rules and talk openly with the other teams.
So help me out, give me an understanding. And normally this interview tends to go half hour, 45 minutes. We're getting some good topics, good territory, and we're just going to roll with this for a little bit. And I think we've got another maybe 15 minutes to go if you're sticking around or checking this out. I want to thank you. We're broadcasting from the Revolution Cafe in 7th
So
Street
people
in
can
Oakland.
make questions here?
I would love to see. I'm checking, nobody is, but hey, that's okay. We'll come back around if somebody wants to ask questions later.
Or question, just bring their point of view.
Yes, and I'm encouraging anybody who would love to ask. So the question that I'm going to ask you is, give me a scenario when you're with have you approached a team prior, either players yourself as a coach player or as a coach for a youth team? Have you talked to another coach prior to sort of establish some ground rules?
Yeah, I try, and
How do you
actually
approach that?
I can bring you like a little example when I didn't have the time to talk about, and actually it was my bad to consider, and that was this year at YCC, the Aftershock, the U16 team was playing for the third place against Devil, the team from Delaware and New Jersey.
This is the controversial call that happened.
No, it's actually, and I know the coach for a long time because when I was in New Jersey, I worked with Berlin and Ryan, and so I know him very well, and we established through the years also between the teams. There are good mood, but this year we worked very hard on offside. So for our part to avoid offside,
Yep.
and so through the tournament we were working so hard they were pay attention about the other team, right? And when a couple of times in previous game we call offside, but we talked with the team before that. We told them that we were really working offside, so we were asking them to avoid that. But then that game, I didn't talk with Ryan before that. So our player started to call the offside, and the other team wasn't ready to get that call. It's like a picky call, right? Somehow.
That means someone is actually on the line of their pull.
Yeah.
Wow.
But we given a word, and then they do, and there was like if you step a couple steps, it's fine. But if you really gain yard before the pull, that's is given advantage. So we call again, and we was expecting to have if you call twice, if they do twice, then you go and play at the break point. So
is that a turn?
No, it's not a turn. But they get the yard penalty. But that happen only if you have observer, right? And so there was basically this controversy, and there was the team started to be frustrated from one side, both sides actually, one for making the call, the other one to receive the call, and we had to stop, in a timeout and talk again with the team and explain that. So it was basically an example where you can prevent the issue. And that was,
So you needed observers and a ref in that situation? Is that what you're asking about?
No, I mean, it's the rules say that. I mean, if you have an observer, you can enforce the offside call. If there is no observer, then there is no penalty yardage in that case.
So interesting.
Because it's basically difficult to judge, and there is no that penalty.
Are you finding that people were abusing?
No, I think at the skill level, I think it's just you are so focused on so many things that you're not used to put a foot on the line when the pull or start and behind in defense and don't do offside. So I think it's just a lack of in somehow preparation for that.
So, but what was your rationale in really wanting to be a stickler for that particular part of the game? Because that's unique. It's very unique in that. Because
for our part, don't do offside was also mean that we were like not just respecting the rule, but also walk back from the pool and start running before that, and have like the speed to get on defense. And because we are very aggressive in catching the pool and advance with this, we don't want that people take advantage and be already in defense. If they, so it was more strategically why we worked that. And because what you see, there are observers that are just give advice. So there are not really an active observer like in class.
It's like an observer light.
Yeah, it's like just provide. If you ask, they can provide their opinion, but they don't make the call. They normally make.
Don't observers? They're there.
They can
you
call
can
offside.
defer.
They can
do that because I thought they would. If you couldn't come to a conclusion, you can defer to them.
Yeah, but even at youth level, you don't defer to them. You can just opinion. It's like at the international level, what happened with advisor. So they don't make the call. They just give you the opinion, but you still need to finalize the agreement with the player.
I see. Interesting.
So that was and I think it's interesting to use observer that way, because still really keep 100% the choice and the conflict resolution on the player. But you see even a higher level, they don't go to the observer often. They prefer solve the issue on the field instead of go to the server, because often they go to the server, they might have a surprise.
Well, that was one of the things that I had read an article by Brody. He was saying that while he was a champion of refs and even observers, he was talking to observers, and he said, and I'm paraphrasing if I get this wrong, he was talking to the observers. He said that how many of the calls would have been overturned if the observers were brought into discussion, and the observers said the majority of them, because they found that the people who could argue the best got the calls their way. And I thought that was very interesting. So officiating the game and self-officiating is great. And you really need to come back around and go, the people who need to be confident in their voice and understand the rules and don't, and stand on their own 2 feet and not be talked down or out-reasoned if they believe in the call, stay with it. But the interesting thing, and I go back to, I like refs to a certain extent because it really takes, there's a gray area that happens that he who can argue the best wins the calls. And that's that one little area that I'm playing devil's advocate that I thought was interesting to say.
That's interesting. I'm not sure that that's all the time, because I mean you can always just contest. You don't even.
What's the heat of the moment too? Right.
Even if you are very good on explain and you know, like a very strong voice, but I can just say, well, sorry, I can't counter the call and the disco back. So you know that give a lot of power on even like the quiet shy player on the team. But definitely it's an environment also situation, right, for the good or bad. You know, if you make a bad call and you have all the stadium boo on you, you know, that's a lot of pressure on your and your team, right? So you might want to reconsider the point. I have this memory. I was playing with Team Italy against Ireland years ago. And it was very interesting because there was some layout and the guy called a foul, and I was at that point was really a clear defense. So I was really,
it was an emotional call.
It was definitely because it was in the end zone and he kind of didn't attack the dig. So and it was interesting because the guy called foul and seems like very resolute, and you know, in those situations you never know if you want to kind of explode and say what, or just, you know, keep calm. And so I was kind of make a face that really, exactly. I mean, and this guy really stopped for a second, say, okay, just give me a second, and he put himself at this, like take quite like a couple of seconds, think about, and then he retract the call. And I never see that, and I think it was pretty shocking, but it was also pretty cool. Like he take his time to kind of, okay, I need to decide basically now if I want to be a jerk, and it's not only on a jerk. Also, when you do bad call, you put the whole team in an awkward situation, because that feeling that you are not on the right side bring a lot of power on the opposite team. So in the psychological level, sometimes you might get away with the call that is bad and maybe you take advantage, but in the long run of the game that might don't pay off, because the whole emotion, you going to put more energy, more power in the team because you are the you know, the bad guy.
Absolutely.
And they sometimes don't pay off.
Sure, I agree. I like that. I like that history lesson. Thank you. But yeah, absolutely. That was a beautiful situation to talk about, and it's very interesting when you have a player on your team that makes a lot of bad calls, and
we always have that one, right?
Yes, and you're like, and you just go, you can just see it can. I won't even go there, but it's very interesting when you have that guy making a lot of those bad calls, and it can deflate your team. It can put a lot of pressure on your team to be sort of, you have to like shepherd the guy away, going, you know, stop doing that, or like stop being aggro, or you suck it up and don't mention it, and then you've got the weight of a guy making bad calls, and it can definitely hamper your emotional,
distract the whole team
completely. It can be emotionally distracting for the team,
and even take out energy and power from the teammate to say, you know, to fight hard when you know that something is going wrong, right? So
and he might be a good player, and by engaging him to step back, that might be his power center away, and all of a sudden what he builds from that makes him a great player, you may be hampering him. So it's a really, you know, delicate balance that come into play. But it's nice when you have one of the components, self-reflection, and to go, you know what, my bad, you're right, I'm sorry, this is not me, let me recalibrate. And you love when you have that player who can be very self-aware, and it's very relieving when you're like, good, I don't have to like tell you you're being a jerk, you actually can check yourself and do that moment, and that's a lovely moment when you're like, great, this is a cool thing, you want to high five them. So Anything else you want to talk? We've in the third session.
No, I really enjoy talking with you, but there are, it's part of the beauty of this sport. There are so many things to talk about.
Oh yeah, and absolutely.
So many experience. So yeah, I really appreciate what you're doing, and bring people here and listen to different story and perspective. It's pretty cool.
It's fun. Thank you very much. So this might open up a bigger thing, but what's that one? So as a player, what's that one ultimate moment that when you wake up that just plays in your head, that one highlight? You just talked about one situation. That moment may play in your head. But what's that one moment that comes in your head that, as a player, that you sort of relish?
Tough question. I mean, there is so many.
Good.
I guess depend on on the moment. If you think about yourself, you think about other situation. Well, I would say well, go back to Ireland and another game against them, and
Italy versus Ireland.
Yeah, and they were
national
down,
team.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they were down.
Worlds? Where? Worlds.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were down the score, and they take a timeout, and then line up against us on the sideline. No, sorry, on the end zone line, and we were like the other side, and they just bring them together like in a line, and they sing their national anthem, and that was their timeout for them. that was pretty cool, and and yeah, that's a thing that I remember from that.
No highlight. That is what you remember. Not a sick highlight, not a sick throw, not a layout. That's what you remember.
This contest
that's fascinating.
Is something that
that's
was pretty cool. Was shocking, and actually, was for us put completely. We were kind of aggressive. We are up. Let's beat this guy, and see them like respond that way. To give us a lot of respect for them,
Wow.
and besides still play hard, changed the dynamic of the game, and was a lot more spirited after that. Not that it was a bad game, but it was a lot of, and at the end with the spirit circle was pretty cool. I mean, that's something that show they're proud, and they're again the effort on
That's
we
very
want
cool.
to beat you, but we are a team. We do it the right way.
I have to tell you, I would not have seen that story coming. Okay, great. So as a coach, that was a beautiful story, by the way. So as a coach, on any particular level, what was one of the more satisfying memories?
Satisfied. Well, we talk about coaching your son, Alec, and that year was very tough. YCC. We basically lost. Remember, you were there, right? We lost a game because I was trying to give play time to everybody, and I didn't put a strong line. The other team responded very well. We won trading points, and we had two chance to score and just win, but we didn't. We dropped us easy pass, and they scored again. They won the game at Universe, and they put us in the low bracket.
Right.
So we didn't get in the championship bracket, and that was basically my error to manage for the specific game to manage the.
You say your error.
Was an error. Was an
Was
error.
it? You should have played the win at that level. Is that what you're saying?
I think I could. So here the interesting part. Beside be also an educational moment for them to you need to step up. The team that you put, I trust you. You need to step up and do your job. So there might be a better way at the end to adjust that and try to keep their way but still save the game. Instead of I stick hard on ask to them to respond, and I didn't get the response. And very very inside me there was also like this interesting situation where I saw the other team fight so well. That was actually fascinating to see them. I mean, I was kind of prouder for the other team. It was exciting to see them. Like, it was a very young team from Maine. They probably lost every game, and see them respond that way was beautiful. So there was that component too. But back to the story. So we lost the game, and the team was destroyed, and we didn't realize there was the complicated situation with the schedule and with the standing that we lost the championship bracket. So we were devastating. I was devastating as a coach, and you remember that.
I do.
I was ready to walk out and go back home, like. And I gave to the team, like, now next game was against Seattle, the champion of the champion, the best team around there for years. And I told them I cannot coach this game. I'm overwhelmed with a bad mistake, and you guys need to step up. And they did, and they play an amazing game against Seattle. And so see that error, kind of destroy our final standing, but at the same time seeing them responding that way was great.
Yeah, that was in Minnesota, and that was one of the first times I had an extensive conversation with Val, and there was nothing there to hear that story. There was nothing there that I took away on that level. I saw a gentleman managing, coaching, very level-headed, and he managed well. And I can understand what you're saying. I just didn't really understand until now how deep a groove that cut, as far as looking at how to coach under different certain circumstances and asking the players. So it was a great experience, and you gave my son lots of playing time. He had a terrific tournament. I was amazed how Alec played. But that said, you played him appropriate number. He played at certain areas, and I took away that. That's funny what you saw. You were in the trenches. I didn't take that away. I thought you played. You allocated your team and played well. That said, let me go off on a slight tangent here. Here we open up another topic here.
Yeah.
So did knowing Maine, how poor, did that go into any of your, this is a team that lost a lot of games, it should be an easy roll, or did you approach them that we need to beat them, do not look at their record? Their record was not indicative of the team.
Normally that is the approach, but you also know that the strength of some of the team. I saw them, I was scouting a little bit them, and so there was a very young team, but they play kind of perfect game, and we didn't. And so when the thing go that way, I was expecting to have
an easier time.
Not the difficult game.
Right.
I was, I think, also resting some of the players for the Seattle game. So there was a lot of components on that decision,
right.
Not just give play time.
Right.
Because you need to make think about in the long term. But after all, it was a mistake that. Play in a negative way for the results.
Yeah.
But again, without that kind of situation, probably against Seattle we didn't have that reaction and that beautiful game that I think they still carry, and that they carry personally, but they carry also as a team. The following years they remember that game, and they give them confidence to say we can play at that level. So that kind of play off in a positive way, but was kind of a mistake, a coaching mistake.
Nice. Well, thanks for sharing those two. And those are two stories that I did not think, and that just talks to the character that you have more depth. That you're just not.
They look like.
Yeah, exactly. You have depth to it. You're just not nice guy with a great accent. You definitely have character and depth. And so, I'm keep crescendoing. This is a bad interviewer, but you have impending parenthood coming.
Yeah. True.
When is Laura due? And congratulations.
Pretty soon. Thank you. And
triplets, I hear.
Yeah, we hope so. No, I guess with one. How many you have? One.
Singular.
Okay. So you recommend that?
Well, do you know the gender?
We don't know the gender. We'll be a surprise.
Oh, good. That's besides death. That's the only ultimate surprise. If you suppress knowing it's your kid, that is the perfect gift. You don't know. That's beside when you're going to die and what your kid's gender is. Those are the perfect mysteries in life. So you preserve this. You're not curious. Sounds so great.
We are curious, but we'll let go and see.
I salute that. So I thought I was going to get a girl because that is a mystery in my life, and I got a boy, and I love my son tremendously, and it's a gift. But either way, they're going to be lucky to have you guys as parents. You're both solid people, and it's great. This is going to be very.
Laura is a great player. I mean, she don't play anymore, but She played with Team USA.
I know.
She won gold.
This is amazing. Yes.
So
actually, I wish she was here to be a part of this, and it was my bad on not inviting her. But this has been very cool. So, on that note, I think we're going to wrap this up. This third installment of Scooberlicious Ultimate with Bay Area Disc Youth and Education Program Director Val Iani, and I want to thank you. Our next podcast will be happening in a couple years. Guests to be determined. If there's any post questions, you can post them on Scooberlicious Ultimate on Facebook or on Twitter, and Val will be happy to answer them. And
maybe people can suggest who they want to see.
That would be great as well.
Interview.
I'm looking for coaches, anybody out there promoting the sport, any players. I've got one in mind coming up for this particular month. She doesn't know it yet. But on that note, yes, your suggestions would be great. So on that note, we are again podcasting from the Revolution Cafe. Need to flip this around. They're on 7th Street in Oakland, across from the main post office in Oakland, and they've got a Super Bowl Sunday party here coming up Sunday, as well as they've got chicken and waffles that I'm going to participate in just a second. Anyway, thank you very much.
All right.
Have a great day. Take
Bye,
care.
guys.